Okay, Judges chapter 13 is where the whole story starts up with Samson. So, Samson, I will mention, Samson is also a type of Christ in that he's a deliverer, like the judges I said in general, but there's special parts of this. For one thing, the birth of Samson. So, his Samson and his mother are a type of Mary and Jesus at the birth in a certain way, just like later it turns out that way with Hannah and Samuel. But there are certain stories that are a type in that way. This is one of them. So I'll read this, chapter 13. Okay, so again, the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord delivered them into the hand of the Philistines for 40 years. Now, there was a certain man from Zorah of the family of the Danites, whose name was Manoah, and his wife was barren and had no children. And the angel of the Lord appeared to the woman and said to her, Indeed, now you are barren and have borne no children, but you shall conceive and bear a son. So we get this. An angel appears to the woman, tells her, she'll have a child, and it's a miraculous conception and birth. Not as miraculous as Jesus, obviously, but it's something miraculous, right? And she'll have a son, and he'll be important, all that, but not as much, but just some type of that, and a small move in that direction. Okay, now therefore, please be careful not to drink wine or similar drink, and not to eat anything unclean, for behold, you shall conceive and bear a son, and no razor shall come upon his head, for the child shall be a Nazarite to God from the womb, and he shall begin to deliver Israel out of the hand of the Philistines. Now, the thing with the Nazarites, that's another thing in the law where you could volunteer to be a Nazarite, and it could be for a set amount of time, and they wouldn't cut their hair, they wouldn't have anything of wine or from the grape at all, and there was something about they couldn't be defiled like with dead things or so anyway, you can look that up if you want to see exactly what the rules were, but that was the deal. He was going to be a Nazarite from birth, okay, from conception. So the woman came and told her husband, saying, A man of God came to me, and his countenance was like the countenance of the angel of God. Very awesome. But I did not ask him where he was from, and he did not tell me his name. And he said to me, Behold, you shall conceive and bear a son. Now drink no wine or similar drink, nor eat anything unclean, for the child shall be a Nazarite to God from the womb to the day of his death. Then Manoah prayed to the Lord and said, O my Lord, please let the man of God whom you sent come to us again and teach us what we shall do for the child who will be born. Okay, and again, he was going to be a deliverer to deliver them from their enemies. So that's another type here. And God listened to the voice of Manoah, and the angel of God came to the woman again as she was sitting in the field. But Manoah, her husband, was not with her. Then the woman ran in haste and told her husband and said to him, Look, the man who came to me the other day has just now appeared to me. So Manoah rose and followed his wife. When he came to the man, he said to him, Are you the man who spoke to this woman? And he said, I am. Manoah said, Now let your words come to pass. What will be the boy's rule of life and his work? So the angel of the Lord said to Manoah, Of all that I said to the woman, let her be careful. She may not eat anything that comes from the vine, nor may she drink wine or similar drink, nor eat anything unclean. All that I commanded her, let her observe. Then Manoah said to the angel of the Lord, please let us detain you, and we will prepare a young goat for you. And the angel of the Lord said to Manoah, though you detain me, I will not eat your food. But if you offer a burnt offering, you must offer it to the Lord. For Manoah did not know he was the angel of the Lord. Then Manoah said to the angel of the Lord, what is your name, that when your words come to pass, we may honor you? And the angel of the Lord said to him, why do you ask my name, seeing it is wonderful? See, so that right there jumps out in an interesting way, because it's sort of a little dancing around, like, why are you asking my name? Why does it matter? And like, instead of an attribute of the name, like it's a wonderful name, it's more like that is the name, or it can be the name, wonderful. Like God is known by his attributes. And right away I think of Isaiah 9:6, where, it says all that stuff. His name shall be wonderful, comma, counselor, comma, all that. And that's the Messiah. So, and, it applies in different ways to, but it's that. So anyway, it's kind of interesting, all these connections. So Manoah took the young goat with the grain offering and offered it upon the rock to the Lord. And he did a wondrous thing while Manoah and his wife looked on. It happened as the flame went up toward heaven from the altar, the angel of the Lord ascended in the flame of the altar. When Manoah and his wife saw this, they fell on their faces to the ground. When the angel of the Lord appeared no more to Manoah and his wife, then Manoah knew that he was the angel of the Lord. And Manoah said to his wife, we shall surely die because we have seen God. So they really had this in their head, But his wife said to him, if the Lord, now look, she's a sensible woman, look. But his wife said to him, if the Lord had desired to kill us, he would not have accepted a burnt offering and a grain offering from our hands, nor would he have shown us all these things, nor would he have told us such things as these at this time. Like you're going to have a child and all this, that, right? Do this and that, right? So the woman bore a son and called his name Samson. And the child grew, and the Lord blessed him. And the Spirit of the Lord began to move upon him at Mahane Dan, between Zorah and Eshtaol. Okay. So, anyway, that's how Samson comes along. It's one of those things, kind of a special birth. And, okay, let me look at this. I'll be right back here. I just want to look at that. Oh my goodness. I opened up and it was right there. I can't, this just keeps happening. All right. I'm not making that up. I don't have a secret little bookmark in here. I really don't. Okay, let me see. Yeah. Okay. I mean, this could apply some of it to the whole Trinity, some of it just to one or the other sometimes, but let me read this. For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government will be upon his shoulder, and his name will be called Wonderful, Counselor, Mighty God. Some people can't handle that. Okay, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Okay, and it goes on, but I just did that earlier, but it's this whole thing even, but I just want to read that again. Okay, now back to this little detour real quick. Okay, Samson's Philistine wife. Now, what happens with Samson? Samson seems to have a fancy for Philistine women. So I don't know, but that's what happens. And he has this one, and he has this riddle with the lion and the honey, and she just bothers him and squeezes it out of him, and then he ends up losing something at the wedding feast because of it. So he kind of lets her go, this Philistine woman who, and there was another one. There were several of them because that was his, you know, thing. Okay, so anyway, yeah, so they get it out of him, and then he gets kind of upset. Okay, now here, let me go on with this part. Then the Spirit of the Lord came upon him mightily, and he went down to Ashkelon and killed 30 of their men, took their apparel, and gave the changes of clothing to those who had explained the riddle. So his anger was aroused, and he went back up to his father's house. And Samson's wife was given to his companion, who had been his best man. So that's how it ends, because she gets it out of him. And then he's like, well, I can't trust her if she's going to tell this to them, and he loses a bet instead of winning it with his riddles. So that's what it was. Okay, and then in 15, let's see, there's all this back and forth with Samson. Oh, this is funny. Okay, all right, I'll just read a little more here. After a while, in the time of wheat harvest, it happened that Samson visited his wife with a young goat. And he said, let me go into my wife, into her room. But her father would not permit him to go in. Her father said, I really thought that you thoroughly hated her, therefore I gave her to your companion. Is not her younger sister better than she? Please take her instead. That's how they bargained back then. Anyway, and Samson said to them, this time I shall be blameless regarding the Philistines if I harm them. Then Samson went and caught 300 foxes, and he took torches, turned the foxes tail to tail. Okay, so he tied them together by their tail in the back, so they were facing outward, and the tails were connected they were tied together somehow, and put a torch between each of their tails. So he put this torch there where the two tails were connected. When he had set the torches on fire, he let the foxes go into the standing grain of the Philistines. And you can imagine them running all around, because they're trying to get away from this fire. They set the whole thing on fire. Anyway, and burned up both the shocks and the standing grain, as well as the vineyards and olive groves. Talk about a little revenge, right? Then the Philistines said, who has done this? I mean, that's an interesting idea. And they answered, Samson, the son-in-law of the Timnite, because he has taken his wife and given her to his companion. So the Philistines came up and burned her and her father with fire. So they did that to them because they had done this. I mean, the whole thing this is the Wild West. I mean, okay, talk about some serious consequences for everything, right? Okay, Samson said to them, since you would do a thing like this, I will surely take revenge on you, and after that I will cease. So now he's mad. So he attacked them hip and thigh with a great slaughter. Then he went down and dwelt in the cleft of the rock of Etam. Now the Philistines went up and camped in Judah and deployed themselves against Lehi. And the men of Judah said, "Why have you come up against us?" So they answered, "We have come up to arrest Samson, to do to him as he has done to us." Then 3,000 men of Judah went down to the cleft of the rock of Etam and said to Samson, "Do you not know that the Philistines rule over us? What is this you have done to us?" And he said to them, "As they have done to me, so I have done to them." But they said to him, "We have come down to arrest you, that we may deliver you into the hand of the Philistines," because they were mad at them, for what he did. So anyway, then Samson said to them, "Swear to me that you will not kill me yourselves." So they spoke to him, saying, "No, but we will tie you securely and deliver you into their hand, but we will surely not kill you." And they bound him with 2 new ropes and brought him up from the rock. When he came to Lehi, the Philistines came shouting against him. Then the Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon him, and the ropes that were on his arms became like flax that is burned with fire, and his bonds broke loose from his hands. He found a fresh jawbone of a donkey, reached out his hand and took it, and killed 1,000 men with it. Then Samson said, okay, and then he sings a little song about it. So anyway, long story short, he ends up getting rid of a lot of Philistines in this way and in that way, and it always has something to do with, he got mad, somebody got him mad, and he lost his temper, and he got rid of some more, and then the thing with the Philistine women, and one thing leads to another, and this happens again, so it goes on and on like that. Okay, then, and so it was, when he had finished speaking, that he threw the jawbone from his hand and called that place Ramath Lehi. Then he became very thirsty, so he cried out to the Lord and said, "Have you given this great deliverance by the hand of your servant? And now shall I die of thirst and fall into the hand of the uncircumcised?" So God split the hollow place that is in Lehi, and water came out, and he drank, and his spirit returned, and he revived. Therefore he called its name En Hakkore, which is in Lehi to this day. And he judged Israel 20 years in the days of the Philistines. Okay, and we see a lot of this term of the uncircumcised Philistines, and technically what it really means is just, now you could say it too, like anybody who's unrefined, unsophisticated, sort of a low life, roughneck, any of that. You could apply it to that. So that's what it really means. Heathen, that kind of thing. So, okay. Now, Samson and Delilah. Now, this story, it's just going to roll right in to 16, and I'm just going to read 1 through 20. So he's been having a lot of victory, okay? Samson got defeated a lot of Philistines. That was going on and on. And it's because he's so strong. He had a special power or strength from God because of the Nazirite thing. So that's going to come out in this story here. And another thing about this, you hear these songs. I remember a long time ago there was a song that talked about, love stories about couples, and this couple was on the list. And it sounds so wonderful, like Romeo and Juliet, that kind of thing. And when you read the story, you find out that this was not at all a love story, unfortunately. So there's some interesting little details in here that it's almost funny. So you'll see. Okay. 16. Now Samson went to Gaza and saw a harlot there and went into her. This happened a lot, I guess. Anyway, when the Gazites were told Samson has come here, they surrounded the place and lay in wait for him all night at the gate of the city. They were quiet all night, saying, "In the morning, when it is daylight, we will kill him." And Samson lay low till midnight. Then he arose at midnight, took hold of the doors of the gate of the city and the two gateposts, pulled them up, bar and all, put them on his shoulders, and carried them to the top of the hill that faces Hebron. Afterward, it happened that he loved a woman in the valley of Sorek, whose name was Delilah. Okay, so he loved her. Okay, again, he had a thing for Philistine women. So, anyway, and the lords of the Philistines came up to her and said to her, "Entice him and find out where his great strength lies, and by what means we may overpower him, that we may bind him to afflict him, and every one of us will give you 1,100 pieces of silver." So we get another deal. Okay, so Delilah said to Samson, "Please tell me where your great strength lies, and with what you may be bound to afflict you." At that moment, I'd be like, red flag, what did you just say? Right? Anyway, so yeah, she says, "Please tell me where your great strength lies, and with what you may be bound to afflict you." Oh, okay, sure, honey. I mean, that's true love, right? Nothing weird there, right? And so, anyway, Samson starts toying with her. So he says, and Samson said to her, "If they bind me with 7 fresh bowstrings not yet dried, then I shall become weak and be like any other man." So the lords of the Philistines brought up to her 7 fresh bowstrings not yet dried, and she bound him with them. Now men were lying in wait, staying with her in the room, and she said to him, "The Philistines are upon you, Samson." But he broke the bowstrings as a strand of yarn breaks when it touches fire. So the secret of his strength was not known. Okay, now if the first thing hadn't been a red flag, this is an even bigger red flag. It's like, okay, now she goes ahead and ties him up with that stuff and calls out like that, "Honey, the Philistines are here." And, what if, and he breaks free, but I'd be thinking, well, why would she have even done that, right? What is the deal? So I don't know, maybe he loved her in a way that he was blind. I don't know. Then Delilah said to Samson, "Look, you have mocked me and told me lies. Now please tell me what you may be bound with." Okay, now she's acting like the victim. Okay, "You didn't tell me what can tie you up and kill you because you don't love me." Yeah, red flag after red flag here. So he said to her, and he's still toying with her here, "If they bind me securely with new ropes that have never been used, then I shall become weak and be like any other man." So guess what she does? Right. Therefore, Delilah took new ropes and bound him with them and said to him, "The Philistines are upon you, Samson." And men were lying in wait, staying in the room, but he broke them off his arms like a thread. Okay, now if you see men coming out of the corners in your own bedroom with your wife, every time she calls this, and that happened both times so far, mean, how many more red flags would you need, right? I mean, if nobody had been there, it'd be one thing, but they were there. They come out, I guess they came out, but my goodness. Anyway, Delilah said to Samson, so she keeps up with this, until now you have mocked me and told me lies. Tell me what you may be bound with, sweetie pie. Like, oh, sure, honey. And he said to her, if you weave the 7 locks of my head into the web of the loom. So she wove it tightly with the batten of the loom and said to him, the Philistines are upon you, Samson. But he awoke from his sleep and pulled out the batten and the web from the loom. So, I mean, this is the third time, the Philistines, the Philistines. Then she said to him, see, how can you say, I love you, when your heart is not with me? You have mocked me these 3 times, and have not told me where your great strength lies. And it came to pass, when she pestered him daily with her words, and pressed him so that his soul was vexed to death, that he told her all his heart, and said to her, no razor has ever come upon my head, for I have been a Nazarite to God from my mother's womb. If I am shaven, then my strength will leave me, and I shall become weak and be like any other man. Now, if he didn't see the red flags in the road, down the whole road by now, and then he goes and tells her this secret, oh my goodness, oh, and it doesn't go well for him. Okay, when Delilah saw that he had told her all his heart, she sent and called for the lords of the Philistines, saying, come up once more, for he has told me all his heart. So the lords of the Philistines came up to her and brought the money in their hand. Then she lulled him to sleep on her knees, and called for a man, and had him shave off the 7 locks of his head. Then she began to torment him, and his strength left him. And she said, the Philistines are upon you, Samson. So, just like before, right? So he awoke from his sleep and said, I will go out as before. At other times, and shake myself free. But he did not know that the Lord had departed from him. Okay, so that's what happened, and they're there, right? And they come and they grab him, and that's it. He gets taken captive, and he gets, he's put as a prisoner, and he's serving in their prison, and it's not pretty. Okay, I don't want to read all that, but anyway, that's what happens. But in the end, there is another victory with Samson, where he ends up, he's doing something in their, as a captive, and he ends up in their temple pushing, because his hair grows again after a while, and he gets his strength back, and he keeps it a secret. And he's standing in their temple between 2 pillars, and everybody's in there, and he pushes them apart, and the whole roof falls, and people up there and down there, with the roof, they all die. And it says more died during that than all his other conquests. So it was a victory, but it took his life because it fell on him also. So anyway, that's the end of Samson. And then it says here, and his brothers and all his father's household came down and took him and brought him up and buried him between Zorah and Eshtaol in the tomb of his father Manoah. He had judged Israel 20 years. Yeah, he had earlier it said that for a certain number of years he had judged Israel, so he had done that for a while. Okay, so that is Samson. And now there's one more I'll do where it's 30. So, I mean, this will be its separate thing, and then this will be its own thing. It's just 2 chapters, but it's worth a read. Okay, so I'll be right back.